So, welcome to today's lecture. Today I will be talking about visualization using both Python and also a special tool or software called Paraview. Those two will be used together, and I will show you again how you can get from your data to a visualization using these tools. So I'm first going to talk a little bit about the Paraview application. So Paraview is a visualization application that has been developed since the start of 2000. It has the roots in high performance computing and visualization of large data sets. It also has a parallel version which you can run on clusters to do the algorithms in a more efficient way. So many of these algorithms that are part of Paraview are quite compute intensive. So it's actually not the visualization itself that is the big thing. It's actually the algorithm to actually create any visualizations. So let's see here. So I will go through this lecture here. This lecture is from Kitware that develops this software, and it will be available in its entirety on our webpage. But I will do some of the slides and then also do a live demo of Paraview, so you can see how it's used. So Paraview, it's an open source software, so it's available with source. It's very scalable and also multi-platform. So this software is available on Linux, Mac, and Windows. It supports distributed computation. So you can assign several servers to do the actual algorithms for computing the visualization in the backend. It is it has an open, flexible, and very intuitive user interface. When you kind of learn it, because there is a bit of a threshold to learning this application. You need to kind of know how the basic flow of data is for the user interface before you kind of see how intuitive it is. It's very extensible. You will see that when I demo it. It has a lot of space basically on plugins. So you have multiple hundreds of plugins that can process your data in different ways as well. So it's BSD license. You can also get commercial maintenance and support if you like, but it's free to download. So here are some examples of really large visualizations being done with Paraview. So you can see it's very much fluid simulations. You can also do finite element. You can do elevation studies. It takes most of the data structures you have and you can create visualization from the data structures you have. So it's mostly used by governments and commercial institutions. So it's downloaded a lot. So it has several hundred thousands of downloads per year. It has got many reviews and awards. And what can you do? So it can handle, as I said, many kinds of data, but it is especially very good at handling really large sets of data. So you see here that these are some of the structures being visualized by Paraview. So you have, in 2005, you already have 6 billion structure cells, 250 million, billions of AMR cells, you can have trillion cells, and so on. So it's kind of really scalable. But many of these visualizations here have been done on parallel computers. So you divide up the visualization over several nodes. So these are not the ones that you're running on your laptop. Perhaps those from 2005 is probably possible to do on a laptop today, but otherwise, for really large visualizations, you go to clusters. This is a view of the architecture. So if you go from the bottom here, it uses OpenGL, which is a graphics library that is used for hardware accelerated graphics. It uses MPI for parallel computing. IST, I don't really know what it is, but it uses a lot of the high performance libraries underneath. And on top of that, it's implemented using a library called VTK, or Visualization Toolkit. This is a large visualization library in C++, which you can write your own applications in as well, if you have that need for dedicated applications for visualization. So many of the concepts you see in Paraview are based on the concepts in the VTK library. Over that, you can have a Paraview server, which is it's a way of doing client-server visualization. So you have a server running on a cluster, and then you have a user interface that connects to this server. On top of that, we have a user interface library. So it's based on Qt, which we will also do in the next lecture. We will look at how to program Qt user interfaces. The user interface also has a built-in Python interpreter. I will show you some of this in the lecture here as well. So you can use Python for describing your problems with visualization. You can also export the visualization you have created in Paraview as a Python file, which you can edit and run inside Paraview. On top of that, we have a lot of application. What we are going to look at today is the leftmost. It's the Paraview Client. So that is the Qt user interface where you can explore your data and do your visualization. There is also something called PyPython, which is a Paraview Python interpreter. So that is a standalone version of the Python that is built in. So if you have created and exported your visualization states, you can run the Python code using the PyPython. Then there are ParaWeb, which is a web-based version of Paraview. Catalyst is also a specialized version of Paraview. So this is the main architecture. So as I said before, it was started in 2000, and it's a collaborative effort with the Los Alamos National Laboratories and Kitware. So Kitware also develops the CMake build system. So they have a lot of experience in software development. So current version we are going to, that this release is actually 5.8, and I think 5.8 was released just a couple of weeks ago, 5.8.1. So this is the institute that actually funds this. So it's Sandia National Laboratories is a big institute in the US. And it has been funded by several agencies. It's also part of the Exascaling Computing project. So many of the visualization of large computation results are done in Paraview. So what is visualization? So basically, when you run your simulation codes, your output is numbers, and the numbers can consist of coordinates, vectors, scalar data, and other stuff. And in some sense, you want to go from the numerics to something that you can look at and you can interpret using your own eyes. So this is a typical illustration. You have a lot of data and you get this kind of interpretation of the data using Paraview. Paraview supports a lot of different data types for visualization. So there are some primitives that you can use. So you have a uniform rectilinear data structure, which basically defines by rows, columns, and columns in 3 dimensions. The spacing of this data structure is always the same. The non-uniform rectilinear data structure, here you can also specify the spacing between the rows and columns. You can also have a curvilinear data structure where you kind of have a curvature, but also have this structured layout with rows and columns. Then you have, if you have unstructured data, you can also have use the data structure that is called polygonal, where you basically can have any kind of data structure, which has any kind of structure from, for example, finite element methods and stuff like that. It's also possible to have a unstructured grid, which basically you can combine a lot of different geometry in a single unstructured grid. So those are the 5 main data structures you can use. There is a lot of information on the web. So there's a book you can buy. There are tutorials on the web. And there's a lot of videos online as well. Yeah, you can see here, this is the help menu of the program. So instead of going through the more slides here, I was thinking about actually I'm running Paraview. So let's see if I can. A new share. Can you see a blue square here in the middle? It should say Paraview on the top left. So this is the main user interface. On the top here, you have the menus, of course, standard menus of a Windows program. You have a toolbar here with the possibility of, so the data can also have time steps, and you can move through time steps here. On the left side, let's see here, if I can just annotate here. So this here is the pipeline browser. Here you define your visualization pipeline. Basically, you load your data and then you add filters to that data in different ways. And the result will come up here in this main window here. Here, in this part of the screen here, you have the properties of your pipeline. So if you click something in your pipeline, it will show up in the properties window here. You modify the things here. On the right side here, you have a color map editor or additional panes here. So when you have data structures you visualize, you can actually modify the color maps, and you do that in this right side. So I will show you a simple example here, and I just will do a sphere, or I'll do a cylinder. So now I see here I created a source. I didn't load anything now, and now I created a simple primitive cylinder. And what you notice here now that nothing happens. So Paraview, because you can handle potentially a lot of data, by default, Paraview will not draw anything until you tell it to do so. And you see here there's a green button here on the left side called Apply. And if you press that button, it will apply the visualization. So we'll take this cylinder and show it in this screen here. And here you have, you can select all the properties. So now I selected the cylinder here in my pipeline. There is an eye here, and that means it's visible. If I click that, it will be invisible. So when you add stuff to the pipeline, you can turn off and on the different parts of the pipeline. So here in the properties here, I say I want a bit better resolution on my cylinder. Now it's kind of 6-sided here. So I add more sides to it, like, let's see here, 28 slides. And I apply here. Now you see here that it's the resolution has been improved. I can also select different representations of the primitive here. So the default is surface. I can do surface with edges. So now you can see here the edges that are part of the cylinder. You can do a wireframe model, so basically only showing the wireframe of the model. You can show only the points. And there are some other things here. You can have sphere form points as well. But I will stop at surface here. You can also set the color here. So now it says that you have a solid color, gray. You can press here and select doing a red cylinder like this. It's also possible to do make it transparent so that you can see through it, and that becomes important when you start combining things in the visualization. For example, you want to see the outline of your object, but also inside the object where you have, for example, a vector field. Then you can change transparency. And that is done with the opacity slider here. You can also make it more shiny. So specular here will actually make the surface more glossy here. And sometimes it can be useful to kind of have that kind of appearance. You can also add axis on this here. You can see the actual size of the object. You can have axis here as well. You can also, on top here, you have a lot of tools here for controlling the view. So I can change the axis views in different ways here, and that will also affect the way I see in the main view window here. There's also a possibility to zoom to data. Basically, if I zoom out here, and I can press this button here to get back. And you can rotate the view in different ways here like this, but you can also just drag your mouse around here like this. So Paraview doesn't have a notion of documents and stuff like so you read your data in, and you can save a state of your visualization. So that saves you all your settings. But you see here that I don't have a save as or something. You have save state. So when I want to start new, you usually tell Paraview to reset everything. So then there is a button here called reset. And when I press that one, it asks me, do you want to remove your visualization? So I say yes. And then it resets and it empties everything out. So I was going to show you an example of a real data set. This is available as example data sets within Paraview, so you can experiment with this yourself. It's called disk out reference AEX2. The first thing what happens when you load this is that you can see here on the left side. So you see here that on the left side here, you get the variables that are contained inside your data file. So this is a data file I loaded that contains a lot of numerical data that is supposed to be in the visualization. So in this case, I just click here to select, I want to have all the variables inside my, for this visualization. I click apply, and you see here that I have a cylinder of some sort. So this is actually a computational volume. And now we only see the surface of this. So what I'm going to do is select this one here and go down here, and now you see here coloring. It's block colors, but now I want to color it based on the temperature that is part of this model. So I select temperature variable here, and now you see here that I can see the temperature here there's different temperature inside, but I can't see. I mean, now I only see the cold temperature from the outside here. So what is the next step? So perhaps you want to see the inside of this volume. Then you can slice your model using let's see here. There is a slice tool here on the top. So these are filters you apply on this model. So if I select this one here, you can see that in the pipeline now I have something called clip 1. And that is a special filter that clips the model. So now I think I accept the default here. Somehow it found the middle here. You can change the origin here or the parameters. You can also drag and rotate the slice plane here using this graphical tool here as well. So let's see if I can get back again. You can also, there are some quick selection tools here too. So this is the slice plane I want. And then I press apply. And now you see here that I sliced my model here. And now also you see that the previous, the model I read in is actually, it's not shown anymore. So the eye is closed here and the clip here is the visible output here. What I can do as well, I can change my color scale if I want. So if I go under, either I can press edit here, and then it will show up here, and then you can press, there is a small folder with a heart, and those are predefined color values here. So I will just select some other Inferno here, like this. And now you see here that the color scale changed. So in this model, I also have a vector field. So if I want to visualize the vector field, I can do so as well. I'll just change back here to a different color scale. So now, because I have a sliced model here, if I continue here now and add streamlines to this, the streamlines will only be visible in the clip section. So if I want to show all the streamline or all the vector fields for the entire volume here, I need to select the previous part of the pipeline here. So I can add the streamlines from this one instead. And you see here there is a icon here called Stream Tracer. So I press that one, and then I select a point source, and I increase my size here to, okay, 4. So this sphere here is where the particles will be, for the streamlines, will be emitted. So like this. I will not show the sphere, and let's see here, we take 200 streamlines. And now you see here that I added streamlines to this model now. What I can do now here is I can change the transparency of the clipped model. I press clip, and I select transparency here, and now you can see the streamlines inside the other side part of the model as well. I can also change my, so now the stream lines are colored. I can select a solid color on those instead. Perhaps I'll do a bit gray like this. So now you have a streamlines like this. I can also do add another filter to the streamline. So now the streamlines are represented by thin lines. If I want the streamlines to look a bit more solid, I can do that as well. So I can do, there is a special filter called Tube. So if you go to the filters here, here are all the possible filters you can apply to your visualization. So I just want to show you the alphabetical one here. So you can see there is a lot of plugins that you can use. A nice thing that I have added here is a search function here. So if you know the name of some filter, you can start typing here. So if I know it's called a tube, okay, there's a tube filter. Okay, so then I press tube like this. And then I add that to the stream tracer. Press apply, and let's see if it looks kind of ugly. Okay, they're a bit too thick here, so I will just decrease the radius of those a bit. And there are somewhat too many of them, so I go back to the stream tracer. I say I want 100 like that. It's a bit easier to see. So what I also can do is I can make them a bit more shiny, like this. It's also possible to plot the actual vectors. So if I just close this one here, I select this one here. So I can also do place arrows in the vector field. Then I use let's see here. There is a special tool called a Glyph Filter, and here you can say what kind of glyph type I want to place. So so this will orient any of these glyphs according to the vector field. You can have an arrow, you can have a cone, you can have a 2D glyph. So let's see, I do an arrow here. And I want to, what do I want to kind of wish? So I put the vector field V here. Scale by magnitude, so it will scale the vectors according to the magnitude of the vectors themselves. And let's see here, and you can also say, by default, it will place vectors uniformly in your model. You can also set at every point or every end point. I can show the difference here. So I start with, let's see here how it looks. Oh, they're a bit too big. I think I have the wrong vector field here. Okay. So now they're oriented as well. So these are three-dimensional arrows, and you can scale them here in different ways. You can also color them. Same thing. Now they're colored according to the temperature. I can also color them according to the magnitude. I can also color them with a solid color, like this. And if I think these three-dimensional arrows perhaps takes a bit too much space, there's an option also of using a 2D glyph. And that will make just thin arrows like this. And you can make them a bit more opaque as well, so transparent, so you can see through this as well. So now you also see that I can have multiple different visualization in my pipeline here. So if I remove this glyph here, I can add my tube visualizations here again. I can even combine them, which kind of makes it a bit hard to see. I can add access here to my model. You see also it creates a color scale here as well automatically in our model. It actually also enables you, if you want to do really high quality images, you can also do ray tracing. So it has a built-in ray tracer for doing really fancy plots here. So let's see if I can just so now I see here that it uses, it actually creates shadows in my model as well. It's a bit slow unless you have some fancy hardware. The easiest thing is to do that as a final step when you are done with your visualization. Okay, so when you're done with your visualization, let's see if I can zoom out a bit here. You can save your visualization as a state file, and you do that using save state. And now you have the option to save it as a Paraview state file, but you also have the option actually to save it as a Python state file. So let's see here if I just myvis and I save that. Okay. And if I now open this file, let's see if I can. You see here now I have a myvis file here on my desktop, and I can open this. And now you see here that what it creates is actually a Python file. So what you can do, you can actually edit this file yourself, and then you can run this again, and you can update here and update the properties of everything inside this file. But it's actually a Python file which you also can run through your inside Paraview. You also have the possibility I have a question here about the data files here, and I will come to this in the next section, how you actually get data into this program. So it will come shortly. What you also can do here, I'll do a reset here now. So if I open this state file again, I have my myvis here. It will actually do all the steps and recreate my visualization again. So you now see you have my pipeline here again. And the data will still be located in the data file as specified. And the state only defines the steps I defined in my pipeline here. It's also possible to record Python code. So there is something called start trace that will automatically generate a Python macro for the steps you are doing in the user interface. So let's see here if I, okay. Then I do sphere. Apply. I set I should change the color. Let's edit. Like that. And then I go to tools again, stop trace. And now you see here it created a Python file with all the options I specified, views and everything. And I can save that. Like this. And then you can do add macros here. So I put my trace here. And I see here I have a macro here which I can run. I can also, if I do reset here, I can do run this macro here, my trace, and it should create my sphere again. So Paraview is both a user interface, but also a Python interpreter. And there is a special Python version where you can run all these examples. So every tool and every filter in Paraview is available through this for the Python interface as well. So the next question is how you get data into Paraview. If you have applications that produce data files, the best option to check first is to see does Paraview support the file directly? So Paraview has a really large number of supported files. So you see here that all of these files are things that you can load directly into Paraview. You don't have to do anything to handle these files. And you see there is a lot of them. So start here before you do anything, perhaps your own. What we are going to look at in the next slides here is using the Vtk file format. So Vtk has a default file format which you can specify your data in a structured way. And to do that very easily, we are going to use a special Python library that is called PyVTK. And that library has a lot of objects for creating the data structure required for Paraview. So what I'm going to do now is switch to a notebook here. This is also available here. So this is described earlier which kind of data types are available in Python. So what you need to do when you want to use, so PyVTK is not available by default in Anaconda, so you need to install it. And I think the only way to do that is using the pip command. So in this case, you have to enter on the Anaconda prompt, you type pip install PyVTK. So we'll do that. Okay. So first we're going to do a very simple example. What we are going to do is create a simple cube. And the cube will have consist of points and polygons. And at every corner, we will attach data. So in this case, I will attach a name data here to the corners and call it sample scalars. So you see here that you create a structure that is called polydata. So that is a unstructured grid where you specify the points and the polygons here. So the points is the coordinates. The polygons are referencing the coordinates here. And then I create a point data structure here, which I will attach to the points. And you can, to point data, you can attach vectors, you can attach scalars, and stuff like that. So in this case, the point data will contain scalar values, and you can give everything names as well. So, and that is also a good idea when you're working in Paraview. It's easier to find what you define yourself when you give it names. In addition to points, I can attach data to the cell data here. And the cells in this example here are the polygons. So I will attach data to the cells as well. I will attach scalars. I will attach normals here, and that is a special case. But the normals are also for the lighting of the model. So in this case, I will not use them more than for the lighting itself. And you can attach other data to field data to the cells. But we are going to focus on the scalars here. When you have defined your data structures, you create something called a Vtk data object, where you combine the things. So here in this case, I have the structure, I have the point data, and I have the cell data. So that creates the Vtk model. Then I can export this, and there are two file formats for the Vtk model. You have a text-based file and you have a binary file. And binary perhaps is best used if you have really large data sets. Then it's perhaps a good idea to use the binary form. For these examples here, I will use only the ASCII versions here. So let's see here. I run this and I run this one as well. What did I do now? Let's see here. So If you look at the files that are produced here, I have the example Vtk. So if you just write the name here, it will always add the Vtk extension to the file. So if I look at this one here, you can see here that this is a text-based file, and you see here this is the Vtk data file version 2.0, and you can see it lists the data in a structured way here like this. So let's see here, if I download this file to my computer, and I open Paraview, I should have, in my downloads file, I should have an example 1 Vtk. So let's see here, just apply, let's see what we get in. So now we get a cube. And you see here that the cube, it colors according to the sample scalars. And you see also here that this is there is a small point, and that means that it's point data. I can also visualize the cell scalars. So these are values attached in the middle of the polygons here in the cube. And now you see here that each of the side gets a single color here, depending on the value here. They are colored according to the value and the color map here as well. And you see also it will automatically interpolate the values over the polygons. So you see here, if you do a surface with edges, this is a single polygon. There's no grid, anything. It's just one single cube with 6 polygons. Like that. The next example, I will use a structured grid. So I use something called structured point. And here I do everything in one go. I create a Vtk data object. The structure is the structured points here. And then I attach point data and just scalar values that attach to each of the points in this structured data grid. So let's see here how that will look. I will download my example 2. Open. I should have an example 2 here. So by default, it shows you the outline here. So just see if we can go to surface with edges. And you see here that I have 1, 2, and 3 points here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 1, 2, 3, 4 here. So this is a expected structure that I wanted. So now I just display a solid color. I can select the scalars 1 here, which we named them here. And now it colors the cells here according to the values from the points. We can, of course, slice this model here and look inside. Another way you can do data is you can actually have functions that calculate functions at each point. So in this case here, I can read the data from the file as well. So in this case, I read Vtk data example 2, and I only read the structure. So I don't read any values from it. And then I define a function here, x times y times c. I append the data here, scalars, and then I specify my function here and name it x, y, z. And I export that to file here as well. And that was example 2 fsp.png. download. And now I have to select X, Y, Z to color it. So now I have a function here that is more smooth over the same structured element like this. For example 4 here, I can specify, so by default, if you just specify structure grid with rows, columns, and depth, you can, it will automatically set the coordinates to 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and so on. But you can also specify the coordinates as a second parameter here, which I have done here. So this is just scales it up. I will skip running that. It's another way of doing the function here again. You can also do it as voxels here, so basically adding separate cubes and combining them together here. So you can do those on your own. Then you can also do unstructured grids. So in this case here, I have points and vectors, and I actually create a lot of different primitives here. I have a hexahedron, a tetra, polygon, a triangle, strip, a chord, a triangle, line, vertex. So you can combine them in very complicated ways. And if I run this here, I should get example 3, download. So you can see here that this is a unstructured grid consisting of multiple different primitives that are part of this model here. So here you can see some of the, so you can actually, this is suitable for complex finite element models where you have unstructured grids and you perhaps have other geometry as well. This can be used like that. So let's go to some more interesting examples. So I have a, let's see, close that one. I have a data set here, which is a rectangle block with grid coordinates and vector data. So let's see here if I download this. So it's an UVW data file, and you can see it consists of a header, some information about the structure. So you see how we have 96 by 65 by 48 coordinates in this file. There is also UVW data in this file. So what I do then is I use NumPy for reading this data in. I use something called load text, and I tell this load text to skip 2 rows because the first 2 rows are header data. So I skip those, and I load that into a file, or no, into NumPy array. And one problem with VTK or PyVTK is that it does not take NumPy arrays, unfortunately. So you have to convert the data to lists. So in this case, I extract the points here. The 3 first columns is the coordinate data, and I create that as a point list. And I extract the 3 last columns as vector data. Then I create a point data structure here with vectors at each point. And I create a VTK data structure here with the specified dimensions. I attach the points, and attach the point data. So let's see here how this. So now I will create a ubw.vtk file with all the data in it. So see, it created this Vtk file here. So let's download that. It's a bit bigger now, so it takes some time to download. Okay, so I've downloaded it. Go back here, open. So let's see what data structure we got in now. So if I do surface with edges, you can see here all the nodes in the grid. So let's see here, coloring. You see here I have my vec1 here, which is my vector field. So now it colors the model here according to the magnitude of the vectors. So I think we should do a stream trace here to just kind of see how it looks. So if we do, perhaps we slice it once as well here, like that. And then we make it a bit opaque. Like that. And then we go back here and we do a stream trace. And we put that as a point source. A bit big. Like that. And then we do apply. So now you can see here we have our streams and a slice. And then we can do our tubes as well, so make more cool looking here. So we do search. Tube. Oh, too big. So, and also we make them solid color like that. So now you can see here that we have stream tracers, and so we've gone through a very boring data set to something really cool looking. So so that was a grid with a vector field which we visualize using streamlines. So the next example here, in this case here, I have a elevation table, which actually is a binary file. So let's see if we can download this one. And the file is a 400 by 400 grid, two-dimensional grid. The data is stored as unsigned bytes, and the first 268 bytes are header information. So in this case here, I open the file, read binary. So I open up for reading as binary. This f.seek means that I jump 268 bytes in the file, so set the file pointer there. And then I can use, there is a NumPy function called fromFile, where you can actually read binary data into a NumPy array. So in this case, fromFile, I put the file object in here, and I put the data type here, which is unsigned byte, ubyte. So this is something you have to know something about your data. In this case, I know that it's 400 by 400, it's unsigned bytes. So this will read it into a one-dimensional array. And to be able to visualize this and export it to VTK, we need to resize this to the actual size. And I also know that this is a 400 by 400 file. And then the point data in this case is actually scalar values. So we add the scalar values to the point data. We create a structured points grid and attach the point data to the grid. Here I also show, just to kind of illustrate what the data contains here, just plot it as an image. So this is the actual elevation data here, just plot it as a matplotlib. And now we will read this into Paraview and try to create elevation grid. And I hope that I remember all the steps now, but I think I can do that. So let's download elevation. I didn't run. Elevation. Okay. Download. Open. Downloads. There should be an elevation there, yes. So now actually Paraview saw that this was a two-dimensional data, so now it visualizes as a two-dimensional grid, and I don't want that, so we switch to 3D here. You see this is a plane here. So the first thing we have to do is create a surface. This is an intermediate step to get the mesh that you can transform. So what we need to now is actually to scale the values up. So we add another filter here called, I think it's warp by scalar. And that will actually scale it in a direction here. So now it scales in the Y direction. So let's see here if we scale it up here. And now you see here that it's scaled the values here with a certain value. But you also see that it kind of looks really ugly here because it. So when you do visualization, the lighting is computed by reflection of surfaces, and in this case here we have the lighting normal of the surface is in the middle of the face, and if we want to have smooth maps here, we need to create normals for each vertex of each face, and that is also a filter for that. So let's see here, surface. . generate surface normal. So sometimes you can't remember the filter you need to use, and then you can search for it. So generate surface normals, apply, and now you see here that the surface is smooth. So, but the color scale is kind of ugly, so we will change the color scale to something looks like more like land like this, and we also do some specular highlighting here to kind of make it plasticky. So now we went from a simple binary file consisting of three-dimensional terrain data, and went through, created a Vtk file, and we did a visualization of this in Paraview. Like that. So the final data here, I just want to show you some other stuff you can do as well. This is a generate 128 by 128 by 128 data cube with scalars at each point, and the data is purely noise data, so there's no there is no scientific significance here, but it's good to kind of use as an example for some other plots you can do. So let's see here, Perlin, Vtk, download. I do a reset, yes. This is also a sizable amount of data here. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to do plot volume, surface, let's go. Contour lines, three-dimensional contour lines. So I can specify contour lines in 3 dimensions. I will show how to do that when I get the things downloaded. So this Perlin noise function is it's a function I have provided here. It's not part of NumPy. Okay, there's a lot of data here, so sorry for the wait here. Okay. Let's see this, how much data it was here. So it's so this is 42 megabytes of data, this file. So let's see here. Berlin. So a cube of data. Let's see here, just surface with edges. So you can see there's a lot of data here. So this is a Perlin data cube here. So Perlin data is kind of a smooth noise function you can apply in 3D. So what I'm going to do now with this here is to create a contour plot in 3D of this data. So there is a special here that is called contour. So if you're just interested in a certain value, so let's see, we plot 0.2 here. So we can just do 0.2. Oh, just to start here, apply. Then you get the contour that corresponds to the 0.2 value in the Perlin noise data here. You can also create a range of values. So for example, so I generated, let's see, from -1 to 1, 10 steps, generate a range here. And then you get multiple contour lines like this. What you also can do with this kind of data is to do a volume plot. So if I turn off my contours and I create a volume here instead. So now you can see the data. I can actually do stuff like this. So this is a volumetric plot. Let's see if we can do. So this is a very hardware accelerated volumetric plot that you can use as well. And you can use the color scales here to kind of highlight things in your model here as well. And here you can also do make the contour lines a bit more transparent. Like this if you want. So that was the final plot I wanted to show. And this is a program that you have to get a bit used to work with. I encourage you to do the simple example first. Try out this example that is from the slides, the cylinder with a hole and the temperature, to just kind of get a feel of how you can extract data and slice, and you can do a lot of other stuff. And then when you feel that you're comfortable, you can go on and try use the PyVTK stuff to generate data. There are 2 exercises on this. I just want to I'm not going to and so the images I provided in these assignments are not. It's very hard to recreate them exactly. And if you find something more interesting when you do this, I will not kind of be so hard on these, because it's kind of hard to do those. So try to run the examples and try to create a visualization and create an image from that. So I hope it shouldn't be too hard to do these assignments here. Any questions on this? Otherwise, I will, so that I record this, so I will try to process this so it will be available tomorrow, the lecture. So, okay. Otherwise, I will close this session. I don't have more lecturing for today. So we see you at the tutorials on Friday. I'm also working on the assignments here, but as you are so many in this course, it has taken me a bit longer than I expected. But I'm working through these, and I try to make the next assignment group today or tomorrow as well. So have some patience on the assignment correction. Okay, see you on Friday then.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Do you have a question? Okay.